Hey students, this is lesson 6.2. In this lesson, we are going to learn how to solve systems of equation using substitution. Go ahead and do the review on the previous page and I'll check back with you. All right, the idea of substitution is that we created an equation with just one variable, and we can solve an equation with just one variable by using properties of equality. So here's a system. We know that y is equal to 5 times x, or y is 5 times the size of x. And so what I could do here is, in place of y, I could substitute 5x, or in place of 5x, I could substitute y, however you want to do that. But in this case, I would end up with an equation I could solve if I just take this 5x from this and put it for y here. So I end up with x plus 5x is equal to 12. And that can be simplified to 6x equals 12. So there I did a substitution. Then I just simplified it, combining like terms. Now I'm going to divide both sides by 6. And that gives me 2, and that's the division property of equality. And now that I know that x is 2, I can substitute for 2 anywhere I have an x. So I can take this equation here, y equals 5 times x, and just substitute that 2 for the 5. And I now know y is equal to 10. So x equals 2, y equals 10 are my solutions. Now I just want to make sure that works for both of these. In this equation, if x is 2 and y is 10, I get something that's true. So that's good. And in the other equation, if I substitute 2 for x and 10 for y, I also get something that's true. So the solution works. Go ahead, you try that. All right. Sometimes you don't really have anything to substitute, or nothing very easy to substitute unless you solve for a variable initially. And so what I'm going to try and do is just write an equation to show what x is equal to or y equals. And you want to just pick the easiest variable. And here, notice x is by itself. We wouldn't have to do any division or anything to solve for x here. All we would have to do is add 2y to both sides. So I now have x equals 2y plus negative 6, or 2y minus 6. And now I can put 2y minus 6 wherever I have an x. So now what I'm going to want to do is substitute the 2y minus 6 in the other equation. If I substitute it in the equation, I just solve for x. We just end up with an identity equation. So I'm going to take my other equation, 7x minus 3y equals 2. And I am going to put where the x is. So notice everything else about the equation is the same. And I'm just going to substitute negative 6 minus y where that x was. And now I'm just going to use the properties, the distributive property here. Simplify it. 14y minus 3y is 11y. Add 42 to both sides, and I get 11y is equal to 44. Dividing by 11 gives me y is equal to 4. Now I know that y is equal to 4. I can find x by just substituting 4 in for y here. And that's equal to 8 minus 6, which is 2. Now, just to check to make sure that works, I think I'll substitute it in this equation. So 7 times my x value minus 3 times my y value should equal 2. And my x value is 2 and my y value is 4. So I get 14 minus 12 is equal to 2. And that's true. In my other equation, I have negative 2 times y plus x is equal to negative 6. Y is 4, x is 2. So negative 8 plus 2 has to equal negative 6. And that's also true. So it works. All right, you try that. All right, we can use substitution and systems of equations to solve problems, as long as we can write equations for the problems. So it says the school bookstore sells t-shirts for $8 and sweatshirts for $12. Last month, the bookstore sold 37 t-shirts and sweatshirts for a total of $376. How many t-shirts were sold? So there are 2 equations here somewhere. It says they sold, let's see, last month, the bookstore sold 37 t-shirts and sweatshirts. Let's let X be t-shirts. It's that they sold. And we'll let Y equal the number of sweatshirts that they sold. Okay, so then X plus Y, last month, they sold 37 t-shirts and sweatshirts. We know that the number of t-shirts and sweatshirt totals up to 37. We also know that the value of that is $376, and we can get the value by just taking how much we sell each t-shirt, 4 times the number of t-shirts, plus how much we sell each sweatshirt, 4 times the number of sweatshirts, and that should give us the total cost. Now, we can solve this equation by substitution. If we, say, solve one of these for x or y, let's solve this one for y, so all we have to do is subtract x from both sides. So we get y is equal to 37 minus x. And then we'll substitute that for this y here. So I get 8x plus 12 times the quantity 37 minus x equals 376. Now simplifying that, 12 times 37, we need to know what that is. 12 times 37. 444. So we get 8x plus 444 minus 12x is equal to 376. And simplifying that, we get negative 4x plus 444 equals 376. Let's subtract 444 from 376. And we get negative 68. And if we divide negative 68 by 4, we're going to end up with 17. So x equals 17. And then y is 37 minus x, which would be 20. So they sold 17 t-shirts and 20 sweatshirts. So you would want to check that by multiplying this by 8 and this by 12 and making sure that adds up to 376. Go ahead, you try that. All right. Sometimes when you're solving systems, you get some strange results. You may end up with an identity, which means you're solving a system and there's an infinite number of solutions, or a false statement, which would tell you that there's no solution. So, like in this one here, let's say we were to substitute negative 3y plus 4 for x in this equation. We end up with 6y plus 2 times negative 3y plus 4 is equal to 8. And then we simplify that. And we solve it, and we end up with, this is 0 plus 8, and we end up with 8 equals 8. That's an identity. That means there will be an infinite number of solutions. Okay, now the second one here, if we substitute 4x minus y for y here, so we get 4x minus 9 minus 4x equals 6, like that. Now when we solve it, 4x minus 4x is 0, and 0 minus 9 is equal to negative 9, and that's a false statement. When that happens, that means we have no solution. So go ahead, you try that. All right, we're up to the lesson check. Go ahead and do that, and we'll talk about it next time we meet in class.